I am Morgan Dix, and I am the one.
Welcome to I Am the One, Entrepreneur Edition, a show that explores the journey of business owners who decided to be the one to make life better for the people they serve. I'm your host, Sonia Thompson, and today's guest is Morgan Dix. Morgan is the co-founder of About Mediation, an online guide for the modern meditator. Through their blog posts, online courses, and podcasts, Morgan has been able to help a great deal of students discover a deeper connection to life. We can learn a lot from Morgan's experience in making the transition from doing what he loves as a part of his own personal development to now teaching others how to do the same as a part of his business. So I'm super excited to share his story with you today. But before we dive into the interview, I want to let you know that this episode is brought to you by Try Business School. Get the information you need to build the business of your dreams, step by step. Visit trybizschool.com, that's trybizschool.com, and get started with your free e-course, The 4 People You Need to Build a Successful Business. Now, let's do this. Here's Morgan. Hey, Morgan, thank you so much for joining me today. It's so great to have you.
It's great to be here, Sonia. I am honored to be the one.
You certainly are the one. All right, let's go ahead and dive right in. Tell me a little bit about Meditation, your business that you have.
Great, I'd be happy to. So About Meditation is a website primarily where we offer courses training people how to meditate. And let's see, I'm a co-founder there, and it had been going for about a year before I joined up. And we train people how to meditate. We have an active blog, a podcast, we have online courses, and it's a labor of love.
I guess that's the best way to start a business, when it is a labor of love.
Totally. Absolutely.
So you've got all these different assets and ways to train people about meditation. Why did you, what was the problem that you saw that existed that this website was necessary and all these training resources?
So basically, especially in the West, in America, I think meditation's just moving out of the kind of woo-woo stage. Now it's got all this great science behind it that's being popularized by popular media outfits like HuffPo and Entrepreneur and fast companies writing about it. Meditation's suddenly in vogue. Silicon Valley has embraced it. So it's now coming into the mainstream, and science has really gotten behind it. But there's still, what we found, there's still a barrier for a lot of people, even though it's becoming popular in themselves. And we saw a need to really help demystify meditation, to really make it simple for people, to help people understand you don't need to be a monk, you don't need to be a yogi, you don't need to be a hippie. It's actually, meditation is as native to being human as breathing and eating and drinking really good wine. It's something that really enriches your life in some powerful ways. It's transformed my life. So I think that really demystifying meditation would be a really simple way to say if the problem is that there's still this barrier in people's mind, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to demystify it and make it just a natural thing for people to do.
Yeah, no, meditation, it's transformed me as well. It's definitely a part of my daily routine, something I totally need. Everything, it's the first thing I do when I get up in the morning. So what made you decide that you were going to be the one to help demystify the way people were thinking about meditation in the Western world?
So I've been meditating now for a little over 20 years, and I had been living and kind of formally training for about 15 of those years in a yoga and meditation, what they call an ashram or center. And there was just a certain point where I felt, okay, I'm a trained writer. That's what I studied in university. And then I was the marketing director in my previous job. And so then these three passions really intersected for me in About Meditation: writing, marketing, and meditation. I thought, all right, well, let's do this. I'm qualified to do this, and I'm very passionate about all of these things, and I'd love to write about meditation. I see some people are writing about it, but I would love to just write about it in a way that's not that's not canned. That's really just from my own first-hand experience of the practice, and try and provide as many different lenses on the experience and the practice and the relevance of meditation.
Got it. Now, you mentioned that you are running this business. You're a co-founder. What has that process been like? Now it's a labor of love, but sometimes things can get a little tricky whenever it's not just you're working with another person. So why did you decide to go into a business with another person, and how have you sort of worked through the nuances that may exist there?
That's a great question. So there was right from the beginning, my business partner's name is Tom Bershad, and he's been meditating for 40 years.
Wow.
But and interestingly, there's just a complementary nature to our partnership. So for example, we're both passionate about meditation, and we both have been practicing it for all of our adult lives. Tom also built and sold a major company. When he was 25, and he's 56, I think now, he started a market research firm, and he grew that to become a powerful national company that then he sold. So he was the CEO of that company for 26 years or something. I've always, previous to About Meditation, I always worked in the nonprofit sector, and I worked for a literary magazine for many years, and I was always just in an educational context. So the marketing I did and the outreach was always in that context. So I didn't have a lot of formal business training. All my business understanding was on the job training. So when we came together, he had kind of had this website on autopilot. He was looking for someone to take over and just really run with it. He was looking for someone to also reignite his own passion. And I said, well, yeah, I've built some websites and I have experience with this, let me run with it. And, so we agreed that he would be my business mentor, really, and he would provide the capital. And so he was the consultant and the capital, and then I was the putting in the sweat equity to make it go. So that's kind of been the complementary nature of our partnership. And so, like any partnership, you have bumps along the road. And I think the most important thing is, if you're committed for the long haul, and you work through those bumps, as you know, I'm sure, you always reach a deeper level of trust. And that can definitely be challenging, but that's been our experience so far.
Yeah. So would you say that communication and trust are the cornerstones of an effective partnership within a business relationship?
Absolutely. And it helps that both people value communication. It helps that both people, it helps to have some life experience, to have messed up before and know how important communication and trust are. And I felt there have been certain moments where each of us, playing to our strengths in that respect, have in different ways taken the whole project forward in a very important way in terms of our partnership. So I think when you've run a company like he has, sometimes you can see that sometimes misalignment of roles and responsibilities can end up leading to conflict, what feels like personal conflict.
Right.
But you begin to understand that sometimes you just need to shift something almost from a meta level, and that can really release creativity and more trust in relationship. And so like that would be an example of, I think one time we hit a snag, and I think his experience of knowing that it was almost more of a structural issue, even though it was manifesting as a personal dynamic, that really made a big difference.
Very insightful.
Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And I think what you're saying also is you can't necessarily take things personally because
Totally.
you're so emotionally invested in this business because you said it's a labor of love. So then
Yes.
when something pops up and it's not quite as smooth as you want it to be, it can be easy to take it personal, but you can't. You have to take a step back and say, all right, how are we going to work through this issue so we can get back on the right track?
Absolutely. And does that resonate with you too?
It does. It does because I mean, my business is my baby.
Yeah,
So,
right. Exactly.
you're probably a little more sensitive about your business than you would be around something else. So whenever something happens or someone gives you some feedback that you may not like, you might have an
Oh yeah.
irrational response to it. So you've got to figure out a way to sort of divorce yourself from that closeness so you can receive the feedback and figure out what the right step forward is.
Totally. It's so ironic. I had written an article about how to mindfully embrace criticism. And then, like, there would be certain moments where exactly what you're talking about would play out. I would just see my own responses to feedback or criticism. And you know how it is when you're that creatively invested. It can be enraging, or you can just thank God for my wife, who I was able, I mean, to basically, she's my sounding board for all of this,
Right.
to create space and perspective when I don't have it. And she can just say, okay, just slow down and, here are a couple other aspects you may not be seeing.
Definitely. That's good. It's good to have that person who can sort of balance you out.
Completely. And I relate completely to what you're saying though about the when it's yours, when you're an entrepreneur, there's a little piece of your heart in every part of the business.
Absolutely. Now, what was your fear, your biggest fear when getting started? Because you said you're transitioned from a nonprofit world, now you're coming into the business world. What was your fear in getting started running your own business?
I mean, like questions like who am I to start something like this? Am I qualified? Am I really qualified to do this? What are people going to say? What are they going to think? What are my friends and peers going to think? But I think also just the fact that there's no guarantees, and you know that I think kind of a constellation of those questions, just like kind of just circling around, and knowing that there's those questions weren't going to resolve. Really, those are questions I had to just they're just going to be there until I just leave them in the dust.
Right.
Ideally, just through being successful.
So how did you push past those feelings? Did you just say, I'm not going to listen, I'm going to push forward?
Yeah. So there are a couple. I would say there's like a couple layers in response to that. One is I had like the full buy-in from my partner. So
Okay.
that made a big difference, like my wife. And she just was 100% supportive. She said, she just said, you can do this. You're qualified to do this. And having someone, whether it's your partner or your family or, siblings, your parents, whatever it is, it's like, or just your close friends. I feel that's so important because they help you just move through what inevitably are going to be the voices of doubt, fear, doubt and fear really in relationship to starting.
Right.
So I would say that was a huge help. Her support being, I think just knowing that I had worked for someone else for so long, all my life, all my adult life in the working marketplace for 16 years. Before that, I had always worked for someone else's mission, and I just felt I probably not going to have a chance like this again. It was a transition point in our life where everything we had both moved on from our previous jobs, and it was a very profound transition in our life. So it's just like this moment opened up as kind of like now or never. And I thought, all right, I have to go for it. I know I have all these unresolved questions spiraling around, but I'm not, they're not really answerable questions.
Right.
I need to go for it, and I need to trust, I think, have faith that I'm going to just give everything I can to this, and it's either going to work or it's not. But I have to find out. I have to go for it. And I think also knowing that there's going to be, well, maybe everyone has this a little bit. I wonder if this is true for you too, but it's almost like you want to prove it to yourself and to everyone else. Because I just felt like, well, I did all this, I trained for so long.
Right.
And I felt, what is this good for if I can't give it back? And the best way to give it back, the most creative way, would be just to do it the way I want to do it. And I just felt I'll never really find my voice, my creative voice, unless I do it without someone else above me. So I'm going to give it a shot. I want to try it for all these reasons. So it was like, there are a lot of deeper intrinsic reasons that had to do with just, I think, self-actualization, which I think is so important. Mm-hmm. And just not having an organization to stand behind. Although there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
Because I think that's a valid and important path you can actualize in an organization. But for me personally, I felt, I felt I needed to do this on my own and not stand behind anyone else's organization, front, or ride anyone else's coattails.
Yeah, and you're doing it. You're doing it, and it's been working out well for you. So what has been your proudest moment so far as you've been going along this journey?
Well, I read your question. I thought of like three things that would be like, so the first one, I think we were probably like, I don't know, a year into it. And it's just, as you know, it's just so you're putting out content and trying to build authority online by just getting your voice out there, mostly at the time just through blogging. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was, I was sitting on I think it was like the middle of the day, and I was catnapping or something, and I was looking at my little app on my phone, the Quicklytics, the little Google Analytics app, and suddenly there was this spike, and I was just like, what maybe this is like spam or something, and it allows you to drill, and I drilled in, and I saw it was all coming from this yoga website, this popular yoga website, and I just followed the link, and there was this blog that they had just published, which was like the top 10 meditation blogs you should follow, and ours was number one. So it was so exciting. It was like the first kind of moment of the closest thing to going viral, I guess. It is suddenly this sense of like, well, outside validation.
It's like, we have arrived.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's the first time, feeling like someone's paying attention here, and like it's worth it. I'm helping people. That's actually mattering. And it was a really sweet little write-up, and that was well over a year ago. I think it was 14 months ago or something. And to this day, I still get traffic every single day from that post. So all right, so that was great. So that was number one. Number two was, I think, launching our first like free course and having people join that. But it was like, again, it was just me putting out my own thing, creating my first free course. And then the last thing would be the podcast. Really hitting publish on that podcast that was a long time coming. As you know, that's from a content creation perspective, that's a hurdle. And then when you cross it, you have to, I mean, it takes all, just like you said in your email, you have to bang on it to get
Yeah.
that thing out there.
Yeah, it's not an easy thing, but whenever
No.
you launch it, it's like you're putting you have to wave your flag and be like, yes, I did it,
Yeah.
just because it's a
Yeah.
lot of heavy lifting up front. But
Oh, it really is. I mean, it's so worth it, but it's all exactly. You have to pour so much into it.
you do. Now, what would you say has been your biggest lesson learned as an entrepreneur?
Um, I would say probably the biggest lesson learned. What did I think, all right, so when I first launched a paid course, and I was using Jeff Walker's product launch formula, and I was all excited about it. I read the book, and then I read it again and outlined everything, and I was just like, I was doing my due diligence, and I was like, all right, this is gonna be great. And at that time, we had to it was like I I'd only been there for like, I don't know, 6 or 8 months, and the email list we had was kind of small still, and not. It was mostly. It wasn't a lot of it was kind of a stale list, but I had my hopes up, and it kind of flopped basically. I mean, it took it was our first course, and I think we made like $1,000 or $750 on it, but my hopes were so much higher, right? And so like I was crushed because I was used to my previous incarnation through email marketing. We made over $1 million a year selling retreats, spirit like meditation retreats and stuff. But I'd never really worked with a tiny list like this, and I had to swallow the whole thing and realize if I looked back, I knew that that this was a real possibility, and I didn't really have much of a long range perspective. I was like so in it. And I think what that launch kind of taught me in relating to subsequent launches was I need to keep a higher long range perspective. As much as you have to get into the details and invest to create these things, it's also important that it be one among many things happening that you're always kind of moving many balls down the field. And sometimes you're striking the goal, you're going for it, but yeah, you have to keep in mind there's other balls at play. And I think so the second launch was less painful. I mean, you probably know there's launches they're high investment, high stress things, and if you don't keep perspective, you get really locked into them. They're challenging, and I learned a lot just about perspective from that first launch, about how to just be easy and not get over invested in my hopes, because you don't always know what's going to happen.
That's true. And I think a lot of times it can be very easy to put I don't say all your eggs in one basket, but you just have high hopes that one thing is gonna make all the difference for you. But it's not really in most instances it's not one thing. It's a series of smaller things consistently that compound over time.
Yeah. And I think that's so true. It's like that. I don't know who was saying this recently, but on one of these, Pat Flynn always says this, but it's just like, an overnight success takes 10 years.
Yeah.
Right? You have to keep all these things in play, but also remember you're getting intrinsic rewards from so many different directions, and you want to keep that going. Like every blog post and every new podcast episode and every new little exciting tweak on your website that it's just going to make the conversions that much better. And everything, it's just like it's almost like if I don't have like a lot of things pressing in, like I got to do that, and that, then I think it's something's not quite right.
The incremental gains, incremental improvements every day.
Yes, totally. Totally.
Now, this has been wonderful. And before I let you go, I just have a couple of other quick questions for you. What can we expect to see from you in the future?
Great. So we're going to be launching an ebook and course in the fall, which is all going to be about how to turn meditation into a keystone habit. So we're going to publish a new ebook about it, and then the ebook's going to really be the forerunner to probably 2-month course, and it's really going to walk people through how to not just make meditation a daily habit. It's going to do that, but it's also going to really help you think about how to turn meditation almost like into a sun around around which other habits are orbiting. You're creating a solar system of habits. And the idea of a keystone habit, which I know you're familiar with, is that a single habit, some kinds of habits can have like a halo effect, and they change all these different aspects of your life, and you can stack more habits on top of it. And so I've done a lot of research on myself and in the reading around that, and that's what I want to share with people in the fall.
Very cool. I'm excited about that because habits are essential, especially as an entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm curious about your experience in relationship to meditation and being an entrepreneur, and we can talk about that another time, but I know you know the value and the focus that it can help you create.
Yeah, it's essential. It's essential.
Yeah. Totally.
And so where can people connect with you?
So real simple, my website is aboutmeditation.com. So aboutmeditation.com, you just go right there and you can get our free course. You can check out our podcast. I probably recommend starting with a podcast because there's a lot of great stuff on there.
Okay, and the name of your podcast again?
It's the One Mind Podcast.
The One Mind Podcast. I loved seeing it because it's One Mind, OM, so it's the OM podcast.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't know everyone was going to, exactly. That was like a happy coincidence. That's another great benefit of my business partner. He loves buying URLs, and at a certain point he had gotten onemind.com. So and he was just like, don't you get it? It's like one mind, OM. Yeah.
That was the first thing I thought when I saw it. I was like, this is wonderful. This is perfect.
So glad I'm glad you got it.
Yeah. So before I let you go, I do have one fun little bonus question for you.
Yeah.
So Go ahead and deliver a line from a movie that you've seen. Because I'm sure between meditating, there are times where you just need to veg out and watch a movie. So deliver a line that sort of stuck with you.
Okay, so this one, should I tell you who it's from or just deliver it?
However you want to do.
All right, well, it's from Gandalf. And he says, all we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given us.
Very good. It's so true because we only have a little bit of time. Well, we have the same amount of time. It's finite. So yeah.
Yeah. I hope it's not too heavy or too deep, but it's a good one.
No, it's very good.
For entrepreneurs, time is everything.
It is. Well, Morgan, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for dropping by, and I look forward to continuing to see all the great things that you guys do over at About Meditation.
Thank you, Sonia, and congratulations on your podcast. It's great, and I'm looking forward to the great things that are going to come out of it.
Oh, thank you.
Morgan had so many cool things to share, and I really enjoyed talking with him. But there was one thing in particular that stood out to me, and that brings us to today's I Am the One challenge. It's great to invest the time in learning from others, but you've got to apply those lessons if you want to make them work for you. So based upon Morgan's insights, here's today's challenge question for you. Who do you have in your world to balance you out and give you a different perspective on things, especially when you feel you may be too close to a situation to view it rationally? Who do you have in your world to help you get over self-doubt and fear when it creeps up? And as an entrepreneur, self-doubt and fear seem to creep up way too often. Think about it and then head on over to IamTheOne.fn where you'll find this episode. There on the show notes page, you'll see I've created a worksheet for you to help you address the challenge question for your business. Now, once you've got your answer, leave it in the comments on the show notes page or even tweet me at Sonia E. Thompson and let me know who's keeping your mind right. Until next time, keep working on building your dream business so you can make life better. Somebody's waiting on you. Thanks for watching.